Good afternoon, everyone. I know you're all muted, and that is good to save your data. But I'm sure you can see me. And welcome to Journal Club Peer Mentorship Session. Today we have a consultant, a research consultant, Patrick Mutinda. I hope you all are working from your devices, your computers, laptops. Joram, your hand is already up. Okay, hold on. I finish introducing our presenter, then I'll give you a chance. Meanwhile, you can always type something in the chat. If you have, I'd like you to introduce yourselves by name, tell us where you're coming from. Are you a guest to Journal Club, or wewe ni mwenyeji, one of our members, all right? So Patrick Mutinda is a research consultant, as I was saying earlier, who's done quite some significant work mentoring people who would like to do research. I know many of you are probably hooked to this topic because you have a question or two on data analysis. And when people think data analysis, they think big things, SPSS, STATA, R. But actually, you have a software called Microsoft Excel that you can use to start your data analysis. And I'd like you to open your Microsoft Excel. Patrick Mutinda will tell us which version he's going to teach us from, so that we see if it's compatible. And definitely, as we go through this very practical exercise, feel free to chat in the chat box. Tell us your name, where you're coming from, which institution, and also what would you like to know about data analysis. We have 1 hour, so the time goes very, very fast. We finish by 4 p.m. And those of you just coming in, welcome. Please mute yourselves. And I think at this note, I'd like to give it over to you, Patrick Mutinda. And oh, sorry, one more thing. We are recording this session, so
right,
for the benefit of the rest. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Joyce, for having me. My name is Patrick Mutinda. I do research consultancy work. And today I want us to discuss something on Excel. But before that, let me just share the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Good. So, as I said, I do consultancy work on research. I manage research projects and also do independent consultancies on data analysis. I'm not a statistician, but I love Excel. So the first thing I would like us to do is really just a general overview of why we need a topic like this. And Excel is actually one of the most common spreadsheet softwares that is used across the world. And you may find Excel quite useful if you don't have any other software for the analysis.
Mr. Patrick, would you please
still
share the slides, slideshow?
Just a minute. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, that's better?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So as I was explaining, Excel is quite commonly used across the world. And many people find it popular because they may lack advanced tools of analysis. But again, Excel is also useful. Just a minute. Yeah, it's also useful even when you have other analysis software, because in some cases it has been found to be better in terms of making graphs and charts. All right, we have it back. Okay, so, and actually in some cases, Excel can make you actually do analysis which are more advanced. Those people in financial world they do use Excel a lot to do financial analysis. And even the other general statistical analysis, you can do correlations, regressions, and other tests in Excel, like t-test, z-test, and the like. So by the end of the presentation today, I want us to be able to differentiate between the regular Excel range and what we call Excel tables. Then we also overview how to do data summaries using pivot tables. You can also call them reports. We also look at how you can do pivot charts. How do you insert pivot charts from the pivot tables? How do you use filters and slicers? And how do you combine all these functionalities to form what we call a dashboard? A dashboard is simply a combination of all these things, charts, tables, filters, slicers. We shall explain what all these things are. Okay.
Just a small question to you, Patrick.
Yeah.
At this point, would you like us to just follow the presentation or also open Excel, or we will do the exercise at the end?
So for now, I would like us first of all to follow, and at the end, I will provide an exercise.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, everyone will be able to attempt, all right?
All right.
Sorry, I should have clarified that from the beginning.
All right.
So to help us to navigate this, we have a scenario here of an international NGO called Mama Kenya that runs programs in Kenya. And these programs are on child and mother issues. And in their programming, the organization has been using data from 2009 census to do their programs. But now, since we have a new census, the organization would like to use the new data from 2019 census to be able to inform their programming, right? So you have the country director who has approached you, asked you to prepare a report showing how the situation of the mothers and children in Kenya looks like, and what are some of the areas that the NGO can focus on to do new programs. So that is the scenario, and we'd like to know how you would approach this if you are a data manager or an assistant to be able to produce this report. Okay, so by the end of it, you should be able to have a dashboard like that. That's a dashboard, but it's from not from this data set, from the business field. So that's the goal. As we go through this presentation, for those who don't know how to use pivot tables, I know some do, many people do know this, but it's good to refresh. But for the new people with this skill, that should be the goal, what we need to achieve by the end of it all. So, the process of creating the pivot tables starts with the first step, which involves converting the data set that you have from the normal range to what we call an Excel table. So what is a regular range or the normal range? This is what you see when you open Excel. That's what we call the normal range or the regular range. And there is difference between this range and what I'm about to introduce, called the Excel table, which actually looks different from the normal range. So like from the table I've shown on the bottom right, the one on the right is an Excel table and the one on the left is the normal range. And as you can see, it looks different. It basically looks different colors, and it has what we call headers, column headers. And you can actually be able to do more advanced, like it makes work easier compared to the normal Excel, because you are able to do filtering and also what we call calculated columns, which I'll be able to show in a while. So yeah, at some point I will switch from the Excel to the data set so that you're able to see what I'm talking about. But let me just ask a question. Anyone can answer this. How many rows does Excel have?
Can we Google? I know we have some masters of Googling. So consult
No, that's not
Dr.
allowed.
Google.
Anyone?
Okay, who would like to answer that question? First of all, do we know the difference between rows and columns? So how many rows do we have in Microsoft Excel? Somebody please unmute yourself. I don't want to pick on you. I can see all
You
of
can
you.
proceed if.
Okay, they don't know the answer.
All right. So Excel has more than 1 million rows. It's about 1,050,000 rows and about 16,000 columns. So if you want to do an analysis that
I think Manemo Kadi.
Yeah, are we there? Okay, let's proceed. So if you want to do analysis where the data set has more than this, there is another approach that you can use, and that will not be the discussion today. Excuse me. We'll focus on that some other time. But for today, we want to stick to the basic analysis, which is the use of pivot tables or pivot reports. So I'll be using this data set, a data set from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics census. The data set has more than 900,000 rows, and it's data on women who are aged 15 to 49 years, and that is the reproductive age. The data it has 30 variables. Okay, so I now want us to switch to the data set to be able to see how it looks like. Just a minute. So we are now sorry, that's not the one. Just a minute. Just a minute. It's coming up. But meanwhile, I'd like to just point out something that Excel has been improving over time. We used to have, like, I remember when I was my initial training on computer stuff, we were using Excel, Office 1998, and Excel of that time was quite, I would say, rudimentary. It was really, compared to what we have right now, which is Excel 2016, if I'm not left behind, it was quite behind. The Excels of those days were quite, they did not have improved functionalities as we do these days. So the data set is just a minute. There you go. Sorry for that. Okay. Can everyone see the data set?
Yes, we can see it.
Yep.
Right. So there you go. If you go to the end of the data set, you can see around here, that's the total number of respondents, 900,000, 900,034, well, 934,397. Okay, so this is the normal range of Excel. And we said for you to do the basic analysis in using the pivot tables, you need to convert the normal data set from normal range to Excel tables. And how do you do that? You can use a shortcut. For example, you can use Control and T. T means table. And the other way is to go to Insert and then Table, and then that Create Table dialog box pops up. And you need to have this one retained. My table has headers, so you need to make sure that one is ticked. And then you can say okay. But before that, let me just make another copy of this data just in case. Okay, it's coming up. You need to have a good computer to open this amount of data. So we are converting this one to Excel table and go to Insert, My Table, and it changes how it looks like. So there you have it. And as you can see, this is the normal range, and this is the different range. It has these ones where you can be able to sort and filter. The first row is the headers. column headers, and something that's different in Excel tables that's not there in the normal range is the totals column. I'll just show you something. Under design, we have this. Can everyone see the total row?
Yes.
Yes, the one I'm hovering on. This one, if you check this one and go to the end of the data set, you can be able to obtain the totals. For example, I have one of the variables. I want to obtain the total so that you can see. And this is, for example, children, male children born alive. You just need to estimate. At the end, this row at the end has the totals. This is the number of hours worked. Of course, it doesn't make sense because it adds everything, but using this drop down, you can be able to select what you need to see. A good example is the average, and the number of, this is the average number of hours worked by the women in the last 7 days. So that's something that we don't have in the normal range, the normal Excel, okay? And then the other thing is what I call the calculated columns. In the normal Excel, when you want to calculate something, I want to show you, we have a variable here called boys born alive and girls born alive. We want to add this to be able to have the number of children born alive. So in the normal Excel, you can add boys born alive to girls born alive. And you can see this 3 is a sum of 1 and 2. And for you to get the rest of the cells filled up, you have to drag this down. I know many of you know that. But now when you have 900,000 rows, you may need to double click here so that it fills up. So there you have a new variable, but you have to drag it down or double click this button here. But now the magic with the Excel table is that what we've just done, when you do a function, you just calculate that automatically using a single click. For example, you can see the boys born alive, girls born alive. We can create a column here for the total children born alive. You can say children born alive. And if you are keen, when you are doing the calculation for using the other normal range, when you clicked on this one, it referenced the cell. But now, as you can see here, it's referencing the entire column, and the name of the column is boys born alive. And you can add this one, girls born alive, and it references the entire column. And when you do a single click, which means equals, then it automatically fills up everything. So that's the other difference between the normal range and the Excel table. All right, there are more tools, there are more advantages that the Excel tables have. For example, when you are clicking here inside the data set, there is a whole range of tools that are active up here. They are the table tools. And there are many tools that you can be able to use. Like I just showed you this one, the totals row. There is also, you can also go back to the normal range. Can everyone see this convert to range? This one.
Yes, we can see.
We are
Right.
seeing.
So there are many functionalities with the Excel tables, and that's why pivot tables are much easier to do. Now I want us to move a bit faster. And I want us to insert a pivot table, okay? And how do you do that? For you to insert, sorry, let's go back to the data. So there are several ways of inserting an Excel, a pivot table. When you are packing within this data set, you can see this summarize with pivot table. You'll not be able to see it if you are not clicking inside. So you have to click inside and then summarize with pivot table. You can also use this option where you use insert and then pivot table. Those are the two ways of doing that. And we just want to insert the first pivot table. Insert pivot table. And the first thing that you do when you see, can you see the create pivot table dialog box?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing you should do is to give a name to the pivot table you are going to create on this field. So I want us to call it women. Sorry. Women, and I want the table to be shown on a new worksheet. And then it says data source is not valid. Just a minute. Insert pivot table, table 1. We'll rename it to women. Okay. Just a minute. New worksheet. What's happening? can name it from here. Women. Okay. That's done. So if you saw what I did, I came here under design and then table name. I named it women. So now we can be able to, it was refusing because there was no table name. So we now have a table name, insert pivot table, women, new worksheet. It's coming up. So it brings up this kind of new environment where, sorry. So you have this new environment which asks, for example, this one pivot table. To build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list. And the field list is on the right hand side. So you have pivot table fields, and you have some panel here where you need to move things around, and that's what we want to do right now. And from the slide will be shared with you, so don't worry about that. Now, the first thing that you should do is to make sure you are aware of what you want to do. So in our case, we want to analyze the women by different factors. And when you go to the data set, you choose on the variable that gives you a women, which is gender. But before that, I need to show you. So we have this variable, the column for gender, and as you can see, every participant, every person in the sample is a female. So now let's go back, and what you do, because that's what you want to analyze to base your report on, you drag the variable that has gender on the values. Can everyone see where I have placed the variable?
Yes.
Okay, and on the top right, on the top left side, we have count of gender, and we have this figure, 934,396. That is the total number of women in the sample. Now, there is something you can do from this bit, from the panel here. Using this arrow, you can change the type of calculation. What we have is the count, but depending on the type of variable that you have, you can select either sum, average, product, minimum, or maximum. So for now, we are sticking to the count because that's what we are interested in. And now this is the value. This is the value that we are going to analyze. And we are going to analyze it by, for example, let's say province. We want to see the distribution of women by province. Sorry, I should not drop it there. I should drop it here on the rows. And can you see we have a table here?
Yes.
Okay. So we can subdivide, and this value has not changed. It's the total of all these figures from the provinces. And we can subdivide it further. For example, in the slides I had, okay. We don't know how the women are distributed by whether it's a rural. Let me just go back to the data set. The variable with urban and rural is the EA type, enumeration area type, so EA type. You should be able to navigate across this. And this one, we can drag and drop it under columns. And can you see what has happened to the table?
Yes.
Okay, that's it's that simple. That's a pivot table. But it's easier to do on Excel Excel tables. And we have these arrows where you can filter and sort the data. For example, if I want only central, I can select central, and what I have is only a record for the central. And if you want to select more, of course, you can do that. I now have central, coast, and eastern. Say okay, it reflects in the table. And now I have all the regions. Select all. There you go. So we have that, a basic pivot table. Now we can change the figure, as I explained earlier. This figure, of course, it doesn't change this on the value. We can express it in terms of percentages. And what we can do is do it from here, from the panel down here, the bottom right side, and click value field settings, or do it from here by right-clicking this value and select value field settings. So we want this to be in percentages. So that one, yes, that one will remain. What we are going to change is from this bit, show values as. You can show the values in the pivot table as percentages of either the grant total, percentages of the column total, or row total. I'm going to illustrate that in a while. Let's begin with this option, percentage of grant total. Can you see any change on the table?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Now, every value in the table has been expressed in terms of the grand total, which was here, the 934,000, that value. But if we want to, for example, If we select the values as percentages of column total, this is what we have. So column, we have totals down here for each of the columns. And the interpretation would be, for example, we can see I had done something here. We are here, okay. So, if we look at urban, these percentages are expressed in terms of women living in the urban areas. And you can see this one, 36% is the highest figure there. So what we are saying is that most of the women living in urban areas in the census 2019 were actually from Nairobi. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So here the language is of all the women living in urban areas, of all the women living in rural areas, of all the women living in peri-urban areas. But we want to change gear and move to percentages of rows. And now the totals have moved. I think you can see here, the totals are now for the rows across. And now the language here changes. We are now saying, for example, the row that I'm highlighting, we are saying that of all the women from Central Province, most of them were living in rural areas. This is 61.5% of all the women from Central, okay? But the earlier one was of all the women in either urban, rural, or peri-urban. Anyway, that's the basic pivot table or pivot report. And you can actually format the report in a number of ways. First of all, you can, using the design, under the design tab, you can change the format of the layout of the report just for aesthetic purposes. We have the outline. This is compact. Compact is what we had, and this is the tabular form. I mean, these are aesthetics, and you just need to practice more.
Please, you can't clap because we are not in that view that allows people to clap, but thank you very much, Dr. Nduba. This has been very, very informative. All the way from
that part of our discussion.
No, Petronila,
okay.
Please mute yourself. Dr. Petronila Kingi, please.
Yes, yes. Oh, sorry.
Mute. Thank you.
All right, let's proceed.
I see we have 15 minutes. Patrick,
yeah,
and
I'm trying to wind up.
Yeah, I see a few people raising their hands. So just hold on if you have a question to Patrick.
I saw a request that
the hour is almost over. David, could you please mute participants who are in basically late? There are a few who've just joined us.
Yeah, Aurelia, please make me host, kindly.
All right, can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay, you can expand your analysis by adding more variables to for example, you can add subcategories. Just a minute. For example, in Central, we have several counties in Central Province, and you can have this distribution of women in each of the provinces in terms of where they come from, counties. Okay, and we can see a change here. But you can also collapse this one. You can do that by right-clicking on a single major category and expand or collapse, and then collapse the entire field. Next, you can insert a pivot chart. And this is quite simple. What you do is, while on the Excel, on the pivot table, you come to insert, and then pivot chart, and then you select the type of the chart that you want from this list. Of course, there are charts that won't be able to go with some types of data. So choose the column chart. This is a floating object. You can drag it. You can use this icon to format your chart. You can, for example, do all these things. You can add the data table, data labels, but that becomes messy, all that, okay? So this is, again, you can see we have included the chart on the table. And this one now is a simple dashboard, but we can add more functionalities to the dashboard. For example, we can add a filter and what we call a slicer. But for this one to appear good, we need to just be able okay, to remove the grid lines. View, you go to view and then grid lines. The grid lines disappear and the contrast is much better. And then you can now, to build up the dashboard, you can include a filter, and you can filter by, for example, can you see what I'm doing on the right-hand side?
Yes.
You can filter by, for example, yes, status, you drop it on the filter and it comes here. Now this filter affects the table on the chart. For example, if we select only the slums, then that's how it changes. Now you can build more charts and tables using the same procedure. And the last thing that I want to, let me just input very quickly another table so that I can demonstrate what I need, and then we wind up. Now, I want this table to come at that point where I've clicked. So insert pivot table. The name of the table, we named it women. We want this to be on the existing sheet. And this one, data model, we shall deal with that on another date. So just in a similar way, let's focus on the gender. We drag it here, and then, for example, Yeah, let's just retain the province, but for the columns, you can have something else like religion, marital status. And what we have are the counts. And you can change this to percentages, same procedure. Let's have percentage of grand total. Now, yeah, and you can, of course, very easily insert a chart, pivot chart. Let's have the column and you can drag it. You can resize it. That's for aesthetics. So the last thing that I want to demonstrate is how to do a slicer. A slicer. So this one, we have a filter here. This filter affects only this table, but if we need something that affects this table and this table, we need to use what we call a slicer. So while clicking on this one, there are two ways of inserting a slicer. You can do you can come just the field lists, can come here and right click. And can you see this option of add a slicer as slicer?
Yes.
Add slicer. So we have this, what we are calling a slicer. Let me just quickly format it to have 3 columns. And then these are tricks you just learn when we want to make use of the space here. I think you can see that. Okay, so just leave it at that. But we can make it better. So we have the conventional and unconventional and refugee camp. So the last point I want to make is how you connect this slicer to affect this table and this table. So you click on the slicer and then slicer options, you come here, report connections. Can you see report connections?
Yes.
Yes,
so
yes.
You have now, the default setting was that slicer was connected to only pivot table number 3, but you can connect it to pivot table number 1 as well and say, okay. So if you, for example, select conventional, it affects both tables, refugee camp, both tables and the charts. You can see there are changes here. And there you go. You have a basic dashboard that consists of a pivot table, pivot chart, a filter, and a slicer. Due to time, I have to stop at that point. I would have done more, but I realized that the time is not on our side. So thank you very much. We can have another session on this if you are interested. And lastly, we are going to share the slides and the data set. And I'll give you an assignment where you can create a dashboard, and then we can discuss next time when you have a session like this. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrick. Maybe you can give us the assignment. You can show us the assignment slide now. Members, if you have any comment or question, I see you, Andrew Kasiti. Amazing presentation. Thank you. Ruth Wangi of Life Pillars. Another session is welcome for sure. This is so enlightening. Tiombua is saying, excellent presentation. Thank you, Patrick. I think we followed very well, and I really liked your patience. Some of us have been traumatized through statistics class, but you are very systematic and very methodical, so we were able to follow very well. Does anybody have a question? Godfrey Ogutu says, many thanks for your valuable inputs and great training. Catherine Red says, thank you, Patrick. So does anybody have a question specific to this topic on data analysis? Please unmute yourself and ask. We have 4 minutes. Anyone? If you see there are no questions in any class, it means everybody understood everything, right?
Or they did not understand anything. I hope not.
Yeah, we understood.
All right. I'll share an assignment through either David or Joyce, and we can create another forum to discuss.
Yeah, for sure. This one looks like a series. Aurelia, do you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to really thank Patrick for this. I'm usually on the qual side, qualitative. Today I've learned about pivot tables. I've been on Excel. I hadn't seen that part of Excel. So thank you so much for always an opportunity to learn something new.
Most welcome.
Yeah, this is wonderful. So if we do not have any questions, I think we call it a day.
Hey, thank you. See you next time.
Jace, we have quite a bit of people who send their emails. So David will save the chat. Then he can just send us the emails of the people who need the presentation and the slides, and then we can share with them personally. We'll also put the presentation in our Google Drive. For those who are in the Journal Club, you can always get it there. And also we put the recording on YouTube so that you can always access, just giving you many ways you'll be able to access it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, yeah. Please
Joshua,
share your emails.
your hand is up. Please unmute yourself and talk. Joshua, say something.
Good evening, guys. Thank you very much. I must appreciate this great presentation from Mr. Mutinda. Yeah, I joined you guys late. Late in the morning presentation. I didn't get the link. I was forwarded by a friend of mine. So grateful. So all I'll ask is just like some other guys have just said, if we can have some of these materials plus the assignment, then that should show whether we fully understood it or not. Thanks, otherwise.
Most welcome, Joshua.
Anybody else?
We'll also put the assignment on the Google Drive. We'll create a folder written assignment.
It begins on Earth. So we say which one does not explain, does not. Which one does not explain?
Pascal, mute yourself. Yeah, Aurelia, you may proceed.
I was just saying we'll put a folder on the Google Drive, written assignment, and we can always access the assignment there, and as well as directly in the club page. Yes.
Wonderful. So are any of us guests? So if you are not familiar with the club page that Aurelia is talking about, you're very welcome to join Journal Club. I posted the link there. I'm going to repost it. So you're welcome to join us. This is a space where we share, we grow, we laugh, we do everything to grow in research. So I think that's it.
Yeah, and then just finally, we have the cybersecurity. Today is a packed day, guys.
Yeah.
We have Harvey. He's going to have a session at 7 on cybersecurity. now that we are all online, it's good to know how to protect ourselves. So also go and take a break, and we'll come back at 7.
Oh, wonderful. See you in 3 hours. All right.
See you.
Bye, people.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aurelia, and thank you, David.
You're welcome, all of you.
Bye. Everyone, and Patrick Mutinda, thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.